While a lot has been made about Josh Giddey's pending new contract with the Chicago Bulls, there is another Bulls guard who is eligible for an extension this offseason, even though they're unlikely to sign it, and that is Coby White. We're going to talk about why Coby is unlikely to sign an early contract extension with the Chicago Bulls and why it's most likely going to lead to him going into unrestricted free agency. But if the Chicago Bulls can agree to an early contract extension with Coby White, it could actually be huge for the team. We're going to talk about all that plus more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And Coby White, right? I want to talk a little bit about Coby. So it wasn't just Josh Giddey who exploded towards the end of the season there. Coby White was also one of those players. Now, Coby White was pretty consistent throughout the season. I think if you go back and look, there was a bad, kind of 3 weeks in there that was up and down. But outside of that, Coby White had one of the most consistent seasons of his career. Now, after the trade deadline, we got to see Coby White take his game even further. He was able to go back to driving, creating off drives. The ball was in his hand a lot, and that really did help a lot with Coby White kind of finding his way back to how last season went for Coby White in a lot of ways, right? And so with Coby, unlike with the Josh Giddey thing, his huge explosion there towards the end of the season does not coincide with unrestricted free agency outright, right? Like Josh Giddey has no contract as it stands for right now. Coby White has another year left on his deal, and albeit that he can absolutely finish out that season. But let's look at the numbers for Coby, right? I talked a little bit about that before. The most that the Bulls can offer him is a 4-year, $89 million extension right now, right? And that's the most that they can offer him right now. It is what it is, right? And they can offer 8% rises over that time. Not having that 5th year is what kind of keeps that contract from averaging out to a little bit more, right? When you look at the extension money, it is what it is, right? It's a solid extension. It gets him, towards the range, I think, of a little over 20 per, right? 22.5 per season. There you go on that one. But if you look at Coby White, what he can get as a free agent after next season, so in the summer of 26, what he can get as a free agent, you look at that, Coby White can get close to $41 million. Now, I'm not expecting him to sign for all that. I do think Coby's going to be a little bit more reasonable than that. But to have a cap of $22.5 million and then the ability to go up to $41 million, that's quite a considerable difference there, right? Now, the question is that is there any chance of the Chicago Bulls, because we talked about on yesterday, and this was brought up on yesterday's episode, I talked about how in a negotiation, the Chicago Bulls can negotiate with Giddey. Maybe they can agree on, somewhere in the realm of $26 million, that if they can sell Josh Giddey on what that means, how that team is going to use those savings to make sure they can build a team that is going to be able to compete in the Eastern Conference, right? They have to go to the table to Josh Giddey and have something that makes that offer look or makes that offer make sense by selling it on, this is how we're going to plan to use this. We want to build something winning. Saving a little bit of money here helps us with that, right? Could the Bulls do something similar to Coby White? Here's the thing. I will say this. It's probably possible, right? And the reason why I say it's probably possible is that what the Bulls may be able to go to the table with Coby and say, hey, two-year extension, right? Which means three years left on your contract. He has next season, 2 years after next season. You can opt out at that 2-year part, and then you can get even more money if you opt out in that case, right? And at that point, we've been able to build a team. We'll see what we have. We don't have any problem paying you that money. That'll give us opportunity to make a swing in 2026. It'll give us an opportunity to even make a swing in 2027 as well if we need to do that. But it gives us more time to survey exactly what this team needs. The rookie we draft this year, whether it's Derek Queen or anybody else, and Modest Buzelis, that gives them another 2 more years on top of this year as well to develop, right? And we can know exactly what we have in these guys. Now, the risk for Coby White in that case would be Coby White would be risking not taking the money that he can get now. What if injuries happen, right? What if Modest and whoever we draft in this year's draft extend in a way that maybe makes Coby White expendable, right? So then at that point, you're going to the free agent market. And what if you get phased out of the offense? So then you don't have the opportunity to really earn more money. So there's a lot of risk involved. On not as much risk for the Chicago Bulls, right? Not as much risk there for them. And so that's why it is unlikely that Coby White is going to sign a contract extension with the Chicago Bulls. Now, if they can get him to do one. If the Bulls, and you may have to present that after you get Josh Giddey. If you get Josh Giddey to sign for less, right? And again, I'm not saying he should sign for less. This is just going through as a team building thing, as all that. If you get and you convince Josh Giddey of whatever your vision is, and having vision for AK, that's already a dangerous thing. But let's just say you can convince you can convince Josh Giddey on that vision. You then could go to the table like, hey, I know you saw Josh took less. This is why Josh took less. This is what we sold him on. He's bought in. We need you bought in now too. We can go in this season, this offseason, whether that means going out and getting a Miles Turner. They already have the draft, so they know who their draft pick is. Whether that is going out and getting a Miles Turner, right? If that is going out and aggressively shopping and going after XYZ player, right? If they feel like, hey, we can do that, and that's going to then get us to this place, but we need your buy-in on this. Will you buy in on this? I think that's a great situation. And then also what that does as well, that puts you in a situation where now you're looking at it and saying, hey, Kobe's not bought in, so who's to say that we're going to do enough to be able to re-sign him? And it may add that clarity on you might have to move him then if you don't feel like that's going to be the thing, right? And so it opens up that dialogue. And by opening up the dialogue, it gives you a more clear picture on what can happen next with your team, right? And I think that's the most important thing here is adding that clarity. Again, if you go to Coby and you sit down and he's like, listen, I want to be here. I'm going to be here. But listen, I took less on the last contract, right? That's why we're sitting in this position right now. I took less on the last contract. I gave you a team-friendly deal. This is my third year, my last year on that team-friendly deal. No offense, but this deal, I need more than that. I need to maximize on my earning because since signing that deal, I have stepped up for both the 2 seasons. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to go into the 2025-26 season betting on myself. I'm going to show you guys I'm worth what the price tag is about to be. And it won't even be, we'll be fine. We'll have Modest, we'll have the rookie, we'll have those guys developing. The way I'm about to step my game up, your stars here, you're looking at him. And if Coby wants to bet on himself to do that, players have done it, and it's paid off for him. It's bitten players in the ass before, too, and I'm sure that's what Coby is going to sit down and go over his agent with, because you can have a player that misses the bag like it did in the shoulder. Now, that was due to something else, but, it's happened. And that's the thing in the NBA. It's always a chance. The next big injury could be around the corner, and it could be you. And if that happens, that deal, that summer of 2026, that money ain't looking like nothing at that point in time. Not to say that the Bulls still wouldn't re-sign him. Hell, we gave Lonzo Ball an extension. But at that point, the power's back in the Bulls' hands or whoever you're negotiating with if that were to happen. Again, knock on wood, I don't want to see that happen at all, especially not to just save and penny pick some money. But it's all those things that you have to factor in when you're looking at these contract scenarios for these players. And that's where this team has to try to figure it out at. What is that risk factor, right? What is the number that Coby White and the Bulls front office can overlap on and agree this is the move forward that we need to make? What are those things? And we'll see what happens there. We'll see if they can figure that out. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. But I tell you what, if the Bulls are able to walk away from this offseason signing Josh Giddey for less than the expected $30 million and getting Coby White to buy in and sign a contract extension where he could have given himself even more money, right? I mean, I think we've seen that happen before. If I'm not mistaken, was it De'Aaron Fox? I know there was a guard over the last year that went ahead and signed an extension. People were like, why did he do that? He could have waited an additional year and got $50 million more, right? And that may have not been De'Aaron Fox. But there's always that thing there, right? And so if the Bulls do that, then they better make their swing. Like that, and that's another thing. I love things that put the front office in a position where now it is on you. Now the pressure is on you. You can't sit on your – if you get two players to take less, where both the common thought around those players right now is they are going to want to maximize their money, and you sell them on something, and that's already a tall order. The Bulls haven't had a fucking vision for the last 5 years, and even then, when they did have that vision, it failed, right? Regardless of the reasons why it failed, it failed. So if you're able to sell that, that's a big step in team building for sure, right? But that also puts the onus on this front office to continue to improve this team. This team right now has $59 million below the first tax apron, right? That's our salary cap. That's our salary cap. We don't go into that. We're $31 million, slated to be $31 million over the cap. So I think people have the misunderstanding. The Bulls spend over the salary cap every year. This past season, we were $27 million over the salary cap. We were just beneath the luxury tax, $9 million beneath the luxury tax, right? So there's always that we're always above the salary cap. But we have $59 million beneath the luxury tax apron. And so you're looking at Josh Giddey's extension. Now, Coby's wouldn't kick until next year. It is what it is, right? But if you're able to re-sign Josh Giddey for $26 million rather than it being for the $30 million, that leaves you right there with $23 million in space. Now, you still got to get your rookie in there, which puts you probably more around $22-ish million when that's all said and done. But that is money you can go out there and get. That's money now that we can put on if, I'm not even saying this is a player I want them to pursue. I'm just using the name that recently came out. But that gives you the $22 million to go and put a offer sheet out for Jonathan Kuminga, right? That gives you that ability to do that, or name your free agent, right? That's I said I just use that. I'm not trying to push the Jonathan Kuminga narrative here. That's not what we're doing. But you have that part, right? And so that's where this team needs to really look at and ask themselves, what are you trying to do? And are you really waiting to the summer of 2026, or do you want to give your opportunity to put all your chips on the court and have the opportunity to go after a guy if you decide to go after it this season? Again, you may not, but you may, right? You may see the guy, Miles Turner. Like I said Miles Turner earlier. Let's say it's not it's not Jonathan Kuminga. What if it's Miles Turner? Right? What if that's the guy that you've identified that you want to go out and put that money on to try to bring in here? What if that's the guy? What if it's Santi Aldama, another player that's shown quite a bit of step up, and the Memphis Grizzlies could be in a place where they're just priced out of keeping him depending on the offer he gets as a restricted free agent. Right? I'm not saying that these guys make your team, like they're not coming in to be the stars of your team, but you know what they are coming in? To bring some added depth. And if Josh Giddey and Coby White are going to be who they finish the season in, and if they're, no knock on them, but until we see it, it's an if that is what happens, adding more depth and things like that. If you get a center in the draft, adding Santi Aldama as somebody who can come in and give you some solid play. If you go out and trade a Zach Collins, trade a Nikola Vucevic, what do you get back for those guys, right? Which creates more space for you to absorb more salary if that's what you move. So it's a lot of chips that could fall, right? And again, it's up to the front office to have a vision for how these chips are going and to then put a plan together. And that's where, my faith in this front office kind of starts wavering a little bit when you look at trying to get somebody or having this front office, really have a solid plan. But, that's what you're looking to do. And that's what you could do, right? So we'll see what this team ends up doing, right? It's a lot. It's clear that the Bulls maybe or have the opportunity to be more aggressive than what I initially thought they were going to be coming into this offseason. The question is will they, right? That's always the question with this team, is that will they? They have the opportunity to, but will they? And it's a sucky place to be in with your franchise, right? Because you want to be able to go in and be like, it must feel good to have those to be fan of those teams where you're just like, hey, listen, I know my team's about to go out there. They're about to make some shit happen, right? But a lot comes down to this Monday as well, right? A lot comes down to this Monday because if the Bulls get lottery luck and they move into that top four, if that's what they end up doing, I think that puts a place in you where you may be even more aggressive, right? Not less aggressive, but even more aggressive, because if you get a guy in the top four of this draft, and make no mistake about it, everybody probably in the top 5 to top 6 of this draft could be a star in this league. If you go out and get that guy and you're able to move up and get that piece, that then puts yourself, like, again, I'm not saying championship contention. Right now, can we just get to the place of avoiding the play-in and actually get into the playoffs to start outright, right? And that's the thing that you're looking at. That's really what you're looking at with this team, and we'll see. But draft content is picking up next week after Monday. So Monday we're going to go into with a primer on the draft and things like that. But after the draft lottery on Monday, starting Tuesday next week, it's draft content. And I mean heavy draft content. I mean, we're going into tape analysis. We're going to be watching videos. We're going to be doing a lot of things. We're going to be getting into the weeds of the shits. That's what we're going to be going in there and doing because, hey, this draft is shaping up to be very, very interesting. And I think before the draft combine, which the draft combine is also next week, and that's where we're going to start hearing how some of these guys are working out in individual workouts. That's where you can see a guy, for example, like an Ace Newell, right, move up the draft board. A guy like Danny Wolf move up the draft board, right, because of the way they're able to do in these one-on-one workouts, right? Jace Richardson, a guy that can move up the draft board as a freshman, a 6'6" guard that has a lot of things that he can do on the court, right? And these aren't guys I'm just nerding out right now as a basketball fan. This isn't even really just about the Chicago Bulls and these guys that I'm mentioning now, but like that's what you have to that's what you could have to look forward to. And we'll see what happens there, man. Like this is, and I also think this, right? Those negotiations that I talked about, you're going to be able to see how confident the Bulls are in their ability to re-sign Coby White. Because I tell you what, guys that I've seen mocked to go to the Chicago Bulls in Jeremiah Fears, and who I just mentioned in Jace Richardson, who has tremendous upside as a two-way guard. So some of those guys are starting to be projected to maybe come to the Bulls, right? I think it does play into that. What's going to happen with Coby White, right? And is that maybe in the Bulls address the center in a different way, right? And I'm not saying that's the way it's going to go. I still think that the most likely scenario is you draft whatever center falls from you to you between Derek Queen, Kaman Malawak, who I doubt either one of those two guys are going to fall. There's a chance, right? But I doubt either one of those guys are going to fall. You of course got Thomas Sorber, a guy that I'm coming more and more to when it comes down to it, a guy that is just unselfish and just cares about playing the game of basketball, right? And has a lot of defensive upside. So it seems like a lot of things could be going over for this team, and we'll see what the future does hold. Now, with that said, before we end the show today, I want to do something that I don't do enough at, right? And, sometimes I can miss the text messages. We focus so heavily on the voicemails during the mailbag days. There's a text message in here. This one's from the 574, and they say this. What up, Haize? This Will Moss. I was thinking how AK wants to focus on the 26 free agency, but I don't think a player will be available who will change our franchise for 5+ years. So what do you think about the Bulls trading Coby this year, getting a young player and a pick, making next year all about development and trying to get a top 5 pick next year's draft that's supposed to be number 3, number 1 caliber picks? Then use 2026 free agency to build around minus our next 2 first-round picks. Here's the thing. This team is not doing, like, AK has already said it. They're not doing that. This is a team that's focused on winning now. And if you think you were getting a young player and picks back for Coby, I think what we tend to do is overvalue our own guys. Now, AK has undervalued our own guys, so that leaves even more room to want to get more. I don't think you're getting young players and a pick. I think you could package Coby with our pick to move up or whatever it is. I don't think you're getting a young player and a pick back for Coby. So I think that's what you're looking at. This team is not going to bottom out to try to have a top 5 pick next year. They've already said it. It's not going to happen. And that's just not what they're going to do. So the summer of 26 is about, like, yeah, I get what you're saying as far as you're not looking at one player to change the direction of your franchise. You're hoping that you can find a player that can add to a direction that you already look like you're going with the way that the play and the players are developing on this team, which there are a number of guys that can do that. But I think, and keep in mind, the summer of 26 free agency also is about having the space. You can also absorb money, right? So you can go out and trade and get your guys. So there's a lot of flexibility that they have in that. And I think that's what the Bulls are more so looking for in the summer of 2026. And I don't see them trading. Like, I'm not saying I don't see them trading Coby, because, again, if they feel like Coby's not going to re-sign here, I do think they move him. But I don't think you're looking at it to just say, hey, we're just going to move Coby so we can get younger and have a top 3. That's not what you're going to see from this team. So, we'll see what happens over that, right? We'll see what happens. I do think there are guys, especially even if they're not high on Coby, that could become available in the free agent market. As far as restricted free agents where the Bulls could try to put in an offer, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the Bulls end up doing, man. I think overall, a lot's going to be, you're going to be able to start figuring out a lot by how they maneuver this offseason. But I don't think trading Coby is something that's going to happen personally. Again, not for the reason that you laid out. If it happens, it's because they feel pretty well confident that Coby's not going to re-sign here, which brings its own set of problems, issues, and questions if that's the case, if that makes sense. But thank you for the voicemail, Will. That's my time for today, or not voicemail, text message. Make sure you guys are following us at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number 1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.